The first session today is from Mona Malik, who has come to learning advising from a career as an ESOL teacher, and she's going to share her ideas and proposal that learning advising either needs a set or needs to have a recognized set of core competencies for the role. So Mona, over to you.
Thank you.
When you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deb. That was a fantastic introduction. I will start sharing my screen. Yeah, so thank you very much and welcome everyone for in this session. As Deb just mentioned, yes, this is going to be an extension of the conversation that we started yesterday in the Vananga session, if you attended it. And if you did not, then still, this is going to be a proposal about the competencies and the skills that we demonstrate in our practice day in and day out. And it's good to identify, I believe, and then share them. There are three parts to my session today. I'll first begin with what the TLA role is and why are we needed in New Zealand tertiary education context, and then the issues facing us. We all know what those issues are: career progression and role recognition. And then I'll go on to propose the model of core competencies based on other models from other national contexts. So I begin with our role. Yes, I agree to some extent that it's difficult to explain to people what do we do, but somehow for the purpose of this talk, I kind of agree with the definition from Griffith University that we help students in their academic skill development and related, discipline-specific study skills. It could be maths or digital literacy, etc. And many of us, if not all, have some background in teaching, some professional background in teaching. And why are we needed? To gain an understanding of that, I tried to read around the New Zealand tertiary education context, and I found two reports based on the survey of this sector done in 2016 and 2018. There was, I'm sure you are aware of another survey that was conducted this year, but the report isn't yet out, I believe. So I'm basing my understanding on these reports. And when I went through them, I found that these talk about several things, but something that struck me as relevant for our purpose, the need of TLAs in tertiary education, I found that they talk about how professional autonomy and academic freedom has decreased over the last decade. And professional autonomy of academics was deconstructed using different parameters. And the two that struck quite relevant to me were the pressure to pass a higher percentage of students, to have higher course completion rates, and the pressure to admit students to programs without prior experience in New Zealand or without the required study skills. And the graph here shows that more than 60% of the academics felt that this pressure has worsened in the past decade. So this was published, this survey was done in 2016, and the years before that, during the years before that, this pressure had become worse, they felt. And the three different types of tertiary institutions in New Zealand, the polytechnics, universities in Vananga, among them, it was the academics at the polytechnics who felt that the pressure had become quite bad. And then the other parameter, the pressure to admit students to their programs without prior study skills. Again, as you can see, more than 65% of the academics across the sector felt that this pressure had worsened in the last decade. And again, among the three types of tertiary institutions, it was the polytechnics that felt the pressure to be the greatest, followed by universities and Vananga. So yeah, this is the same thing at a glance. I've just tried to highlight the two parameters here. It gives a comparative view of how the ITPs have felt this pressure to increase over the past decade. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that over half of the academics do not have adequate time to provide learning support and pastoral support to the students, which is considered to be also a part of their job. So we are actually needed to provide that support. We provide a valuable service to students, but unfortunately, we are not valued. And that brings me to the second part of the session, which is the issues that we are facing in New Zealand. And I'm basing the two issues on my experience, as well as these two excellent reports. I'm sure all of us know about them. The fantastic report by Catriona and by Julia and Jardin. So the issues of professional identity and role recognition for TLAs and the lack of opportunities for career progression. We consider ourselves to be, academic, but I am not on an academic contract. So the institutions do not perceive us to be academic in our role. We are not given any support for research and ongoing professional development. And there is no formal recognition of the qualifications and the requirements or competencies needed in the role. I'm sure you have experienced it at your institutions. I have certainly experienced this in my institute, the Manukau Institute. And there are no clear pathways for career progression and promotion because the management and administrators often do not understand what the TLA role requires. And I was quite struck by this remark that was given by one of the respondents in the survey, Learning Center survey conducted in 2018, that often it's redundancy, retirement, or death that are the only events that are likely to change the status of a learning advisor here. Yeah, quite true, it seems. So that brings us to the need for a professional accreditation or recognition scheme that, of course, values the contribution that we make to the student success and also clearly defines the practice, clearly sets out the criteria or competencies that are required for performing the role well. So this brings me to my thesis, which is that I suggest that we have a core competencies model as part of the formal recognition scheme that we are working on. And this model needs to be underpinned by the professional practice document, the ATLAANZ professional practice document. And we may bring together some understanding of advising from different national contexts. I have used the models from two different national contexts. The first one is the NACADA academic advising core competencies model. NACADA is it's a North American organization for academic advisors. And academic advisors do not provide academic support in in the US context, they provide help with degree planning and choosing different courses as part of the curriculum. Still, I found that some of the competencies mentioned in the model, they are quite relevant for interactions with students, and that's why I felt that they have some relevance to the kind of things that we do, interacting regularly with students and providing them well-informed support. So this model is made up of 3 component areas: conceptual, informational, and relational, as you can see. Each of these components has a different set of competencies that has a specific focus. So for example, the conceptual component is around the theories and the ideas, the strategies and approaches of advising that academic advisors need to be aware of and need to put into practice. The informational component has got 7 competencies, and it's based around, or it refers to the information that advisors need to have to communicate to students. The information around their institution's mission, for example, the different degree programs and academic requirements in their case. So this component is about the knowledge part. And the next component is the relational part, which talks about the skills that advisors need to communicate that information and to put their understanding into practice. And these skills include listening skills, asking good questions, creating a rapport, among others. So I found that some of these do have relevance for the way we interact with students in our roles. The NACADA model has been adopted and adapted by another association, the UCAT, or the United Kingdom Advising and Tutoring Association. They are, as the name shows, they are based in UK, and this association is for academic advisors and personal tutors. They have adopted the 3 components of the NACADA model and have also added the professional component, which mainly talks about the commitment that personal tutors and advisors in their national context have to providing evidence-informed service. So this component talks about commitment to ongoing professional development and evaluation. So those were the 2 models that interested me, and I started thinking about how we could how much I could see these models or these competencies relevant for my practice and for our context. And on the basis of that reflection, I came up with this model. I have tried to categorize the competencies according to the focus: student-related, institution-related, profession-related, and self-related competencies. And all these competencies, I believe, are greatly impacted by our context, which is ever-changing. And that's why I have tried to represent it through an open-ended arrow, because we live in an interconnected world, and these contexts, regional and national contexts, are ever changing and ever evolving. So the competencies in each of these categories, I've tried, some of them are taken from the 2 models that I just introduced, and a few of them are specific to our New Zealand context. So the ones that are specific to the New Zealand context, I've tried to highlight them in red here. I will pause for a few seconds to enable you to take in.
May I just interrupt here while you're doing this to say that Mona has also written a paper on this, which was published in last year's ATLAANZ Journal, which, when our host providers get our website up and running, I think that's quite a major outage. We can share the link to that as well. Thank you, Mona. You've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, these 12 competencies, they have different focus, and there are others, 8 others that have an overlapping focus. So like from 13 to 15, they have an overlapping focus between student and institution specific competencies. Again, the ones that are highlighted in red, they are, based on my understanding, relevant for the New Zealand context. Okay. So if I come back to that depiction of a pyramid, the number of competencies that have a student focus throughout, these 20, 17 of them have a student focus, which shows that most of our role or our job is student-centered. 8 of them have an institutional focus, and 6 of them have profession-related focus. Opinions might be different about, how many should have a professional focus and how many institutional. This is just my suggestion, one possibility. And what I propose is, since we are just running out of time, what I am suggesting is that some of these competencies, since at the time of recruitment, no one can have all the 20. We can't look for all the 20. So a few of them can be selected, especially the one with a student focus, exclusive student focus. They may be used to recruit, suitable people in the role. And once they have got into the role, in the first 3 to 5 years, they can go on to work on these 6 competencies. For example, getting to know about the professional practice document, articulating a personal philosophy of advising, why they want to continue it, and what are their values, beliefs, and assumptions regarding learning advising. And they may get to know more about their institution in the first 3 to 5 years. And beyond that, if they choose to stay, then they can go on for, a higher degree maybe, undertaking research and becoming very conscious about evidence-informed practice and so on. Yeah, so that's pretty much about the competencies. Yes, Deb is right. Once the website is ready, we could share with you the link to my paper. And if you guys are interested, I think I may be able to share.
Thank you, Mona. That's great. So, are there any comments? There are some comments in the chat, particularly from sort of people involved in Te Pukenga. But here, this is very, very timely, I think. Mm-hmm. We're probably a small enough group to have at least a couple of comments or questions if you would like. People are definitely saying thank you. I think this is very timely that we start thinking about who we are and what we do. Dawn.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I really like that the model has those 3 stages, and so that it is considering what an early career learning advisor who might be transferring from working in another area might need to have in order to begin in the profession, and then that kind of 3 to 5 years where you are showing that you are running with the job, and then that later stage. As I raised yesterday in the session there, I would want the sort of contributing to the profession to be strengthened. So serving the profession in ways, including research, but also other than research. So it might be mentoring staff in your own and other institutions, or serving on the exec, or just other roles, I think, that show that you are giving back outside of your institution as well, which is where I would see that top level a little bit more. But I think it's a very good model to start with. Thank you for your work on that.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Xiaodan?
Hi, Mona. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really like that. I'm just wondering whether there's any that you have given some thought about how you could take that one step further. And because one of the things I'm just thinking about is that in our role description is in different institutions, that's where those competencies could be incorporated. And then most role descriptions will be used for recruitment as well. So, and that's the next step, kind of like how do we make sure that we work with different institutions to build those competencies into those role descriptions rather than just a standalone document with ATLAANZ, and our managers may not actually even pay much attention to it. So have you got any thought about that?
That's a very good question. And honestly, it does require going ahead and having that discussion, honest discussion with the line manager. And I haven't yet opened the discussion because we are going through that change, the Te Pukenga restructuring. So haven't yet, but yes, the next step is bringing up the conversation with the line managers and going forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona. I like the fact that people are thinking and that the conversation is ongoing. So I would like everybody to acknowledge and thank Mona. And there are comments as well from, who's this from? From Holly, who is in Australia.
Thank you.
So lovely that people are thinking about it. All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.